you have a huge microphone right in front of you.
That's
Although
right,
I guess
yeah.
that could be typical. Yeah.
So, hey, happy Tuesday, and it's gonna be kind of one of those tougher conversations today where we're really gonna open up about affordability. I mean, how in the heck do we pay for long-term care? We're gonna try to break down this misconception of what Medicare, Medicaid's going to pay for, and how we can find some creative solutions to make sure our loved ones are getting the best care. And our guest today has created a pretty, unique, revolutionary model here about how we can afford and get creative in making it affordable and financing some of the issues we face in long-term care. And with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Aaron Ohearn of Worthright. Aaron, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm psyched. This is good to be a part of the conversation.
I'm ecstatic because when we first connected, I love what you're doing here. You're definitely thinking outside the box, and kind of give us a little bit. And what inspired you to take this leap into entrepreneurship, and especially in this I think affordability realm or financing realm of aging services.
Yeah, I sort of start with my story most of the time. And actually, yesterday I just saw my mom, and she can't communicate back to me very well, but I let her know I was doing this today, and I believe she was excited about it, even though she couldn't tell me directly. So, I've spent most of my career in and around early stage technology companies. I would say, built a couple companies that all are tied to personal experiences of mine. So maybe that makes me a mission-driven entrepreneur or something like that. I guess I just get really connected to a problem and just feel like there's a better way to solve it, which I think many entrepreneurs do. This is not any different. So the whole kind of backdrop of Worthright in our business really comes from a direct experience of me becoming a caretaker for my mom. Everybody has different caretaking experiences, some of which you can sort of see into the future and expect. Others kind of happen out of the blue. For me, I got a call from a local hospital where they, said, "Hey, we've got your mom. You got to come in and talk to us." And that day in 2019, I took on a totally new job, which was as a caretaker.
Yeah, that is a role that a lot of people, I think, kind of get thrusted into. What did you learn through that experience?
I just saw you pulled up our website. It got me.
Yeah, I did. I want to show a little bit as you're talking.
Yeah. Look, I think I spent a lot of time researching because that's what I do. I like to really sort of deeply understand a problem, and it was no different. So I kind of treated my experience with my mom like with an entrepreneurial mind, because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what the future held. So I just thought, okay, well, the only thing I have to focus on is what's immediately next in front of me. And so I hired an elder law attorney, and he's awesome. But I continued to ask him care questions, and he, it's like, look, that's sort of out of my wheelhouse. You should talk to Judy. I met Judy. She's a care manager. I hired Judy. And as I got to know Judy, she recommended different facilities for my mom. I kept asking Judy, "Hey, you're sending me to these places. Like, can we afford these? This one's way better than that one. I'd love to be here. Can we afford this one?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's not really my area. I don't really get involved in that." And so it just created this gap around, like, I had to make all these different decisions that I was expected to make without one really, really critical piece of information, which was tied to affordability. Like, could I even do the things that people were suggesting? This is what your mom needs. So that was really the impetus for Worthright. And, my experience with my mom is what drove a lot of the program and a lot of the technology that we've built. Just like what I did exactly for her, just trying to get creative about how I could get her the highest quality care possible for her condition and dementia. And, we've really translated that into a product and a service, that we now offer.
That's fantastic. And I think, I have that similar personal story with my grandfathers, which really sparked me to get into, senior living and so forth. But I really find it interesting. You're taking a unique path for how this all kind of comes together, because you said it best. You've got this elder law attorney who's got their, kind of their area of expertise. You've got your case manager who's got their expertise. Then you have this whole other component of cost. Like, what does it cost? Like, and how, if I want mom in the best, how do I afford that? And so we talked about this right before the show, is you were kind of having a famous tagline. Can you tell us about how the financing of everything but senior care, basically?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying it's famous. I mean, look, so the sort of deeper into the space that I got, I just began to realize, so many times somebody is hit with this need. Mom needs X or dad needs X, and X is, I don't know, $4, $5, $10, $15,000 a month, and you've got to start that like now or tomorrow at discharge, or like some really immediate period of time. And it just sort of became a really painful sticking point for me. I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, you have all these really big considered purchases, things that you spend a lot of time thinking about, that all have financial assistance that's attached to them. College or university, right? You can get financial assistance kind of regardless of your socioeconomic status. As a family, you can get financial assistance, or at least understand your options before committing to a college or university. Car, same deal. Most people don't walk off a car lot having paid for a brand new car in cash. I'm redoing a kitchen, and so this is a new one to me, but I'm financing all of my appliances through the company who is selling me the appliances. So every one of these big purchases, it's kind of interesting. Every one of these big purchases all comes with what I would call financial assistance, some optionality for how you can pay for it, except for one enormous, unknown, and generally immediate expense that people have, which is aging services or senior care. There's just no financial assistance. There's no financing. There's no options for people. It's like you walk into it and, hey, this is all out of pocket. Sort of take it or leave it. And, so that sort of vision, really around helping people pay and fund care is really what, we've evolved into.
That's interesting. No, because when you first said that, I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. No, because it hits home, right? I mean, you're financing a car, you can now even finance some of your medical copays, right? From hospitals and stuff. They're letting you set up payment plans and things like that, right?
Right.
Some of those other things that are out there. So it is interesting when you break it down to what we have on a daily basis or need on a daily basis. This is that big area that is so important that it's kind of almost like, well, we just got to do it. And a lot of times you have to kind of make it work. So kind of going back to Worthright, what are some of immediate solutions that you've seen that have been effective for some of these families?
Well, actually, one thing that I've found, so I'll answer that in a second. So one thing that I've found, which was a total surprise to me, and I think our whole team, but when people come into this sort of mode, which I think is generally, in many cases, crisis mode, but also just like, I don't know, you just feel so out of control. Like this is all happening and you're not really sure how to control it or like what the plan is or what goes forward. There's a ton of just uncertainty. And so what we found is that when we end up working with a family, and we kind of build this and paint this picture for someone, hey, here's everything that mom has. Here's everything that dad has. Here's what that means into the future. If that's not enough to cover, what you're intending to cover, let's bring you involved. And so now you as the, generally it's an adult, like the oldest adult, or sometimes it's a different, age sibling, but let's get you involved. And so we paint this whole picture for a family of, based on everything that you have, here's what's possible. That picture actually, I think gets most people like, I don't know, 80% of the way. Because all of a sudden, when they were kind of thrashing in this totally uncertain world, like we provided some clarity for them. And now, they've been grounded and they're like, oh, okay, we have more than we thought, is often the response that I see, which is wonderful. Now it's not the case all the time. But just showing people that picture of kind of what's possible we've seen be really, really powerful. Families, like, the thing that I've found is that nobody's ever really stopped to tell someone, hey, here are all the different ways you can use X. And like, here are all the different ways you could use your home. Here are all the ways you could use your life insurance policy. Here's how you could think about using your benefits. I don't know why, but no one's really stopped to do that for most families. I guess partially because they've never been in this environment, but partially because it's sort of not a thing. Like, there's an existing system that works today, sort of. And so I think a lot of people, and just sort of coast through that. And, we think differently, and we feel like, you should use everything that you have to increase the quality of life you've got while you have it. And so we look at a bunch of different sort of creative ways of doing that for families.
And I think what I love best, this is one thing that at the Mavericks and what we try to do in my own daily business is, let's think upstream about the system. And what you said best is looking at the system as a whole and seeing how you can almost, I don't want to say reinvent, but maybe develop a different system that is just more effective, more transparent, more solution driven. Because you said it there, the system we kind of have, it works, but a lot of people kind of, I feel, get forced in this box here that, well, I guess I just got to do this because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many, well, I guess if you looked at sort of a broad audience of people, there's some really small portion of them who are kind of ultra high net worth, and money is truly of no object. And so let's sort of like, let's put them, aside. Then you've got a group of people who, their socioeconomic status and condition is such that Medicaid is a great option for them.
Right.
But between those, you have the majority, who are people who, basically there is no system for them. The system is, you pay with what you got, and you kind of make it work in whatever way you possibly can. Those are usually the parents who have kids that are now currently working and earning more money. And I think generationally, what we're finding, those kids really want their parents to have a great quality of life, and are willing to get involved and willing to, step up to the plate and say, how can I help? How can I make this, how can I make this more real for mom or dad? There's no system in place for that sort of group. And so, I think we kind of endeavor to help create a part of that.
Yeah, and this is one thing I think we talked about is, can you elaborate a little bit more on kind of that idea of the kids being involved more, whether it's co-signing or borrowing or some of that other assistance that they could, could be involved in? Because I do believe most kids want parents to have that, whatever that quality of life is at the end, whether it's 5 years, 10, 15, whatever that number is. Can you dive a little deeper? Because that really hit home with me of, I definitely can. That's something, that's an interesting way to consider it.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess I'll get a little detailed on the sort of financial side of the house here, in the sense that, if you're out looking for care, okay, the first thing you have is you've got sort of a care challenge. I need to put mom here or dad here, or this is what we want for mom or dad at home. Then you have a sort of financial problem to address. Well, how are we going to pay for that? All of the sort of more typical financial products that are out there. When I think about a financial product, what I mean is like a home equity line of credit, or a reverse mortgage, or a home equity investment. Like, that's what I consider to be a product. Same thing with like a consumer loan. The loan is the product in this case. So generally, all these things are kind of based on ratios. loan to value ratio, debt to income ratio. And the concept I want to hone in on is debt to income.
Okay.
And so that's where it comes into play when a child can really help out. So what debt to income is the comparison between mom or dad's debt to mom or dad's income, and it creates a ratio. And then lenders or other sort of folks with money will look at that and say, okay, I'm willing to give this person, sort of money either in exchange for their home equity or something. Now, debt to income can be influenced by kids. So if a kid were to co-sign on a home equity loan or home equity line of credit or a home equity investment, they might need to become a title owner of the home, which is kind of an easy process and just paperwork. But then what happens is if the kid also applies, or the adult child also is on the application, now that adult child's debt, which is usually lower, and income, which is usually higher, are also included. So now it's like a family who's kind of approaching this problem. And I'll draw the analogy to a student loan, not in its entirety, but only in the sense that when a student applies for a student loan, their credit kind of sucks. And so their parent usually co-signs. And what that does is it just strengthens the application because the parent has more income than the kid. And so their debt to income ratio effectively is improved. The same thing is true, or can be true, in this case with an older adult and children who want to get involved.
That makes a lot of sense. So you basically are almost solving collectively the challenge financially for your parent, grandparent, whoever that may be, versus trying to navigate a system that works okay. So now you're really kind of looking at it. How can we collectively as a group find ways that might not impact the kids' cash flow, but yet use the kids' cash flow as a benefit to their parent, grandparent, etc.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool. Really cool.
As a company, we'd really like to play a role in sort of creating something new that will help families do that more easily.
Mm-hmm.
Right now there's a handful of kind of typical or more traditional products that are available to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so our job today is to kind of showcase, hey, here are all the different options you have. Here's the options that mom has just as mom. Here's the options that you have as a family. If you were to engage, or if your sibling who's out in some other state gets involved, here's what that could mean for the family and your ability to afford
Mm-hmm.
care for mom. In the future, we want to play a role in creating new products for people that are family based and
Mm-hmm.
specifically for senior care or aging services, I guess I like having you describe that. That was a nice way to talk about it.
Yeah, because I feel, because aging can hit us all, right? So you might have people that need assistance earlier on in their 50s, right? And, someone not look at them as a senior. And I honestly heard the term aging versus senior from trying to work with trying to kind of break ageism, right? That idea of that we're labeling based on demographically. So I can't take credit for it. I just am trying to use it more often than not. But that's really, it's a breath of fresh air because I run across a lot of families that are one or the other. Like they assume Medicare or Medicaid are going to cover all their expenses. And then, they assume a Medicaid, residents will take care of everything. And they walk in there and they go, well, I don't want mom or dad or my spouse here. And, then you have those tougher situations of what that looks like. And so I applaud you kind of what you're really doing here, because I think it's needed as more and more of our older adults are aging, right? And they're going to need some type of support, whether that's in the home, in some type of long-term care environment, or somewhere in between. And I think it's really cool. Can you give any examples as to how this has impacted, someone directly, like recently?
Yeah. I sort of, this is an example that kind of hits home. There's my own personal example, but I think more recently, I was working with a woman from Georgia.
Okay.
And she was amazing. Her mom lived with her. She had, I think not inherited necessarily, but she now was in a home after a failed marriage. And so she was in the home. It was fully paid off. Her mom was living with her. The first time I met her, I remember her expressly saying, I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning so that I can have 1 hour to myself. Then mom wakes up. And then my day doesn't start until about 6 p.m. when mom kind of starts to go to bed.
Wow.
And so she was like, I really want to hire help. I need help. I need somebody to come in and like help watch mom, just hang out as a companion. Companion services not covered by any type of insurance, just all sort of out of pocket. And she was just feeling really stuck. And, we, ran a very sort of quick assessment. And, her home was worth just over $1 million, which was an enormous property. And she had, just over, there was some other sort of like lien on the house, which happens, but she had just over $800,000 of equity in the home, meaning $800,000 of ownership that she could use to take money out of the home that she still lived in with her mom, that didn't jeopardize the home at all, and use it to pay for hiring a companion. So what's funny is that she just seeing that was enough. So she said, that's great. I didn't know that. I had no idea that like I could use my home in this way. So I think seeing the report and just sort of getting the confidence that, okay, if I really needed it, I have the money available to me.
Right.
I don't need it today. So I'm just going to go and hire somebody to come into the house. That was enough for her. But
that's awesome.
It's sort of a classic example, like, I don't know, almost like house rich, cash poor. A lot of people have assets. A lot of people have their kind of worth locked up in these illiquid assets. But if you look creatively, there are generally often ways to use what you have accumulated throughout your life in a productive way when you need it.
That's awesome. No, that's a really cool story, because I think it sounds like too, there's a lot of education that can be provided here for maybe more traditional solutions, right? But also some more of the creative or out of the box solutions. And then obviously whatever you guys decide or try to develop specifically for the aging services, because I'd be really interested to see what that would look like. Because I do think products are needed for this next chapter cycle of life that was, I think, often kind of looked at passively, but now it's actively forefront because we are seeing so many more people that are aging and need something, whatever that something may be. So that's really cool.
I'm psyched that, you all do this podcast. I think it's an awesome way to get involved in the sort of bigger conversation at stake. I think I'm in the space, so it's easy for me to feel like the conversation is really happening, but doing something like this is also sort of indicative that there's a current and there's sort of like momentum building around this issue because of the huge demographic shift. This is just becoming a bigger and bigger problem that people like us have to take cracks at solving.
I agree, and I think too. A lot of our calls, or I'm sure and just like yours, is it's in that moment of not panic, but stress, because it's all of a sudden has to happen now. Like, it was, my loved one had a fall at home. They went to the hospital. They're going to be in rehab for whatever, a week to 2 weeks. And it's like, they can't go back home, or they can go home with support, but then support costs money. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, how do we afford that? And so it's like a 3-week window, your life gets flipped upside down. And it's like, what are my resources?
What do I do?
Exactly. So that's
we see that a lot. People, I think the sort of not the golden ticket, but like the dream state is that people prepare for this, right? And buy long-term care insurance in advance and work with their, if they have one, financial planner to sort of make sure that this is prepared. But The reality is just that people don't do that for different reasons, I think, in different cases. But what happens is then an event takes place and you're just sort of thrust into it and you're like, whoa, yeah, to your point, your life is really turned upside down and you're under extreme duress. And yeah, let's not forget that you're also managing life outside of that event.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, work, school, whatever stage you are. I'm in my mid 30s. And so this happened to me in my mid 30s. I think, a lot of the times it takes place later in somebody's life, but it's sort of, it's difficult to prepare for. And so, I think for us, we really want to be a resource to people who wind up there. And most families we talk to, come through one of our customers, right? So our sort of core customer today is a home care business or an assisted living facility that serves families. And so we kind of have become a service for those people who then in turn serves the family through this kind of financial, I don't want to say planning, but to some extent financial planning experience.
That makes a lot of sense because I think you don't know your problem until you're almost in it, right? I mean, I kind of joke that, not joke, but I think it's serious, is that we need to look at planning for aging as though we plan for retirement. I think it has to be that important because I think if we look at it in that regard, it de-escalates the stress that will occur down the road. Because aging can hit us all. Aging needs can hit us all at different points because we're aging every day, right? Whether we want to acknowledge it or not. What is that trigger? That means that we need X support, or maybe we don't need it until we're 90. We're right, but there could come a point, and probably will come a point, we're going to need some type of support. So we need to plan for that together. Is how I look at it. It's retirement and aging care has to be planned together.
We actually, we had a relationship with have a relationship with a large financial services company who kind of wanted to explore what was happening in this aging space, and we engaged to do some research for them, and because we're finding they have this whole like life event business. Oh, how do we help people prepare for life events? Prepare for college, get their kids off, prepare for, if you're going to support a wedding or something, if that's a big expense, homes, retirement obviously is an enormous one. And then increasingly, they were having a difficult time serving clients preparing for retirement, because at the same time many people were preparing for retirement, they also became a caretaker and a caregiver. Right. So, I'm 55, and I'm like thinking about retiring for me and how am I doing against my goals. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to take on an expense that's double my mortgage payment, or that's monthly recurring into perpetuity. How do I prepare for that? What do I do? And so these folks are, really interested. And so just kind of another, I guess just a, sort of encouraging sign that, some of the really big financial institutions out there are thinking about, how do they serve their clients better as they age.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And two, I kind of want to touch too, is I'm a big proponent of long-term care insurance. I want to throw that out there. However, a lot of it, but problem I'm running into is that when people start to acknowledge it, it's almost it's cost prohibitive, right? So, I think I would challenge anybody watching is we need creative solutions as to that's affordable, but also meets the needs, because it doesn't make sense if I get long-term care insurance, my monthly premium is $3,000 a month. Like, I mean, what does that do? So it's finding that balancing act. And that's why I applaud kind of, Aaron, what you guys are doing here is rattling some different thought processes to look at the system, to look upstream and see, hey, can we kind of build some different avenues?
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And with that, like, let's one area we always like to ask is, let's talk about Mavericks. Do you have any Mavericks in your life who kind of really challenge the status quo?
Yeah, many. I mean, many. Like I think my wife probably is sick of me like talking about this or thinking about this because so I'm an only child, right? So
Uh-huh.
I didn't have siblings that I sort of bonded to. My parents divorced when I was really young, so I made a lot of my own friends, and
Mhm.
I think at this stage in my life, my friends are like family to me.
Right.
And the good news about being an adult is that you can choose who you spend your time with, and so I spend a lot of time with and around people that I think make my world bigger, I guess is
Mhm.
how I like to describe it. Those people to me are kind of mavericks because they're thinking about things in a different way. I've got a really close friend of mine. He's a mentor and just a really dear friend. I can sort of think of him like a big brother who definitely is he is a maverick for sure. And our brains are wired in a similar way, so we sort of get each other. But he's the person that is always kind of challenging the system to ask, like, well, why? Just because it's been done that way in the past, why isn't there a new way to do it? And I think one of the things that brings us together is that we both have founded companies in spaces that we didn't have any experience in. Right. I don't come from the healthcare space or the financial services space.
Mhm.
Um, And I actually think that's an advantage because my naivety allows me to just like think outside of the system. To me,
Absolutely.
there's no reason why it couldn't work this way. Like I don't have
Absolutely.
years of, sort of prefabbed, like this is how it happens, sort of clouding my thinking. And so, this friend of mine that I'm talking about, thinks the same way. And we share a lot of stories about that.
I love that. I think that's one of the best things I run across is people who are not in the industry that want to shake it up. Because I've been doing this now 11 years, and I still look at it as like, why are we doing like? There's no reason we need to do it that way. Like there isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, have we been doing it for 40 years that way? Yes, but that doesn't mean we need to do it like that tomorrow or the year after. And so I love. Yeah, the more people we can get involved in this aging services space that have fresh perspectives, or I would say unique perspectives, will only
Yeah.
make it better. And that's what I
Yeah.
want is I want all of us to age differently, and differently in the sense that it's aging how you want to age, right? I mean, that's the cool
Yeah.
part is that we get enough creative people in here. Well, some things will start to change. And that I love that. I love that's that kind of breaking through. So I applaud all of your friends and your mentor there as well too. As well.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go into this is really important, I think. What action can our listeners take?
Well, I think it depends on where you are or where
Okay.
they are in the journey. The caregiving journey is a long one, and it is one that is nonlinear, and it looks different for everybody. This is going to sound kind of like a cop out. However, I think the number one action
Mhm.
that somebody who's either listening or thinking about this or facing this can take is to give yourself compassion.
Oh yeah.
And the action that you should take is to literally say out loud, everything I'm doing is okay. And, I'm doing a good job and I'm doing the best that I can. And I know that sounds kind of like a cop out, but like,
No.
there's plenty of time for like, okay, let's run a report on your home. Let's look at your life insurance. Let's do it. Like plenty of time for that. And plenty of time, maybe a bad sort of analogy there, but I don't know. I think back to my own personal experience, and I literally yesterday I saw my mom actually in the hospital. Yeah, I was just kind of thinking to myself like, God, there's so many reasons that I have guilt and feel like I should have or could have done something differently, and to some extent, Worthright. I want to help other families avoid the problem that I had because
Mhm.
I feel like if I can help them, it will sort of alleviate some of the guilt I feel personally. But I was sitting there. Honestly, it was just kind of like I'm doing a good job. Like I'm doing everything I can. I did what I could for my mom when I could,
Mhm.
and that was sort of just kind of is what it is. And so the gift that I give to myself is to give myself some compassion, which I think everybody should do, because, the world is a sort of tough and brutal place. And this experience, only makes it more challenging. So I think it's important to kind of zoom out and just remind yourself that, yeah, it's okay. You're doing everything you can.
Well said. And I will echo that. I think that any of our family caregivers, even professional caregivers, acknowledge the work that you do matters, even though it might be in the middle of it, you feel like it doesn't, but it really does. And acknowledge that what you did today is good enough for today. And I think that's really important. So Aaron, I second that wholeheartedly. Because I think it's easy to get in our heads and to kind of look at what because you care so much about the people you care for, whether that's your family, your clients, your residents, and you want to give them everything. And so there's a lot of times that Monday morning quarterback stuff that we don't need to, right? We need to acknowledge and celebrate what you've done today. So, and I will echo that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Awesome.
And with that, how can families or, home care companies or anybody kind of get to, contact with you to learn more about Worthright and kind of what you guys are doing?
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I mean, my email, my email is aaron@worthright.co.
Yeah, I'm fixing that up real quick, because that did not come out right.
You can find us on the web. There we go. Worthright.co is my email.
Oh, I misspelled that. I will fix that right now.
It's a little weird, our website is worthright.com. If anybody wants to email me, my email is aaron@worthright.co. There it is. Exactly.
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah. Hey, it's all good. Very accessible. I kind of pride myself in keeping a minimal email inbox. So if you email me, I promise I will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. And so, I'd be happy to talk, hear feedback, other stories, ways that we can help. I mean, anything. We're a young company, and we endeavor to do really big and impactful things. And so we want to hear from people and understand sort of where they're at, so that we can do a better job serving them.
Yeah, and Aaron, I think you guys are on a fantastic track of what you guys want to tackle, and so I will definitely keep track, and we'll have to have you back on to kind of learn and understand more of how you guys are progressing and making this positive impact. And I will, ask our listeners, share some of your challenges and give us ideas as to what you would like to see, because I think that's where the best ideas can come. Is we know the immediate challenges and also maybe future challenges that can be solved. So we're not just focusing on the short term, but also the long term, because I think, Aaron, what you guys are doing is going to have a resounding impact 5, 10, 15 years from now, because as we age, we're going to need more support for those that are aging. So, and I really, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, well said. I mean, it's only sort of becoming a bigger and bigger thing for more and more people.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing, what Worthright does, who you are, and your own personal story. And I, really applaud all the work that you've done, both personally and professionally. I think it has an impact onto who you are as a person and what you stand for at Worthright. And so I would encourage any of our listeners to dive in and learn more. And then also, check out kind of what we're doing in Denver on September 16th and 17th at the Collaboration in Aging event. This type of stuff is what we're focusing on, is people that are breaking down these silos and barriers and really challenging how we're going to age, not just today, but in the future. So check it out, collaborationinaging.com. We invite you to attend, learn more, and even sponsor. We got a couple sponsors left. So again, Aaron, thank you so much for being here. We're definitely going to have to stay tuned to what you're doing, because I want to keep track of this and definitely want to wish you all the best, and definitely going to break down some doors. So
thank you so much.
Right. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see everybody next Tuesday.